"Don't take the sack off," someone shouted. "You'll regret it." The words cut through the dry air as Ethan Cole slowed his horse at the edge of the crowd, dust swirling around his boots. He hadn't planned to stop. Just water his horse, grab supplies, move on. But then he saw her, standing alone on that rough wooden platform. Hands tied, head covered by a coarse sack. No movement, no trembling. Just still, too still.
But what
Rejected
about my
bride,
people?
the auctioneer barked. Last chance.
Trust me.
No one stepped forward. Men turned away. Some laughed under their breath. One spat into the dirt. "Not worth a bullet," he muttered. Ethan's jaw tightened. Something wasn't right. It wasn't the sack. It wasn't the silence. It was the way she stood. Straight. Balanced. Like she chose to be there. $1. The auctioneer tried again. Nothing. The rope creaked in the wind. The woman didn't move. But then, her fingers curled slightly. Tight. Controlled. Not fear. Not weakness. Something else. Ethan felt it in his chest. That quiet pull. The one he'd learned not to ignore. "I'll take her." His voice cut clean through the square. Head snapped toward him. No laughter this time. Just looks. Long ones. Careful ones. The auctioneer blinked, surprised, then forced a grin. Sold. Coins changed hands. The rope was cut. She stepped down without help. Light on her feet. Too light for someone broken. Ethan walked ahead, not looking back. Follow. He didn't know why he said it like that. But she did. Soft steps behind him. No hesitation. He reached his horse, grabbed the reins, then paused. Something pressed against his back. Not a hand. Not a weapon. Just presence. Close. Watching. He turned slightly. The sack didn't move, but he could feel her eyes through it. Measuring. Deciding. "You got a name?" he asked. Silence. Just the wind. Then finally, "You shouldn't have done that." Her voice was low. Steady. Not afraid. Ethan frowned. Too late now. He mounted and reached down. She hesitated. Just a second. Then took his hand. Grip firm. Strong. He pulled her up behind him. As they rode out, the town didn't go back to normal. No one spoke. No one moved. They just watched. And that bothered him more than anything. Half a mile out, the land opened wide. Red dirt. Dry brush. Nothing but sky. Ethan exhaled. Finally. Quiet. But then his horse shifted. Ears back. Tense. Ethan followed its gaze. Ridge line. Movement. 3. No. 5 riders. Still. Waiting. Watching them. "Friends of yours?" he asked. No answer. Just silence again. He adjusted his grip on the reins. Riders didn't move like that for nothing. Then behind him, her voice, softer now. "They won't stop." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Who are they?" A pause. Too long. Then, "If they see my face, that changes everything." His fingers tightened. Wind picked up. Riders shifted closer. And Ethan realized he hadn't bought trouble. He had just ridden straight into it. The riders did not rush. That was the first thing Ethan noticed. They moved slow, steady, like men who knew they would not be stopped. 5 figures along the ridge, silhouettes against the sun, keeping their distance but never falling behind. Ethan adjusted his grip on the reins and nudged the horse forward, picking up pace just enough to test them. The riders matched it. Not faster, not slower. Exactly the same. "They are tracking us," he said quietly. Behind him, she did not answer right away. The wind carried dust between them. Then her voice came, calm but tighter than before. "They are not tracking you." Ethan glanced back over his shoulder. The sack still covered her face, but he could feel it again. That stare. Focused. Sharp. "Then what are they waiting for?" he asked. A pause. "Too long. For you to make a mistake." His jaw tightened. He scanned the land ahead. Dry creek bed about 100 yards out. Low ground. Limited cover. Not good. He shifted direction slightly, guiding the horse toward higher terrain. The riders adjusted again. Still there. Still watching. "You keep talking like you know them," Ethan said. "Who are they?" She leaned forward just enough that her voice reached his ear. "If I tell you, you will turn back." Ethan let out a slow breath. "Try me." Silence again. The kind that carried weight. Then finally, "They belong to my people." Ethan frowned. "Apache." A small nod against his back. "Then why are they chasing you?" This time, her hands tightened slightly at his sides. Not fear. Not panic. Control slipping, just a little. "Because I left." Ethan felt something shift in his chest. Left. Not taken. Not sold. Left. He looked back at the ridge again. The riders were closer now. Not rushing. Just closing distance inch by inch. You ran, he said. I walked away. Her voice was firm. There is a difference. Ethan almost smirked, but it faded fast. And now they want you back. No, she shook her head slightly. They want to stop what happens if I do not return. That made him pause. He slowed the horse without thinking. Just for a second. The riders reacted immediately. Not charging. Not signaling. Just tightening the space between them. Watching for weakness. Ethan clicked his tongue and pushed the horse forward again. You are not making this easy, he said. It was never meant to be easy. Her tone dropped. Lower now. You made a choice back there. You just do not understand the cost yet. Ethan felt that one. It settled deep. He had made choices before. Good ones. Bad ones. But this felt different. He looked ahead. The land narrowed into a shallow pass between two rock formations. Natural funnel. No clean exit once inside. He slowed again, thinking. The riders spread out slightly along the ridge. Positioning. Waiting. If I ride into that pass, Ethan said, we are trapped. Yes. No hesitation. If I turn back, I ride straight into them. Yes. Another calm answer. Ethan exhaled slowly. Two bad options. No good one. He shifted in the saddle, feeling the weight of her behind him. Not heavy. Not weak. Present. Real. You said seeing your face changes everything, he said. Why? She leaned closer again. This time her voice was barely above a whisper. Because then, you cannot pretend you did not choose this. Ethan's grip tightened on the reins. The pass was 10 yards away now. The riders were closer. Too close. And for the first time since he left town, he realized he was already in it. There was no clean way out anymore. Make your choice, she said. Now. The pass loomed just ahead, narrow, silent, with walls of red rock rising on both sides. Ethan slowed the horse again, just for a breath, just enough to think, but the moment stretched too long. The riders shifted. Closer now. No rush. No fear. They knew he was running out of room. Ethan exhaled slowly and turned the horse straight into the pass. Gravel crunched under hooves. The sound echoed. Too loud. Too exposed. He felt it immediately. No cover. No escape. Only forward. Behind him, she did not speak. That bothered him more than anything. You knew I would come this way, he said. No answer. Just silence pressing against his back. The walls tightened as they moved deeper. 20 yards in. 30. The light dimmed slightly as the rock rose higher. Ethan glanced back. The riders had reached the entrance. They did not follow right away. They spread out instead, blocking the exit. Waiting. They are hurting us, he muttered. No, she said softly. They are giving you time. Ethan frowned. Time for what? Her hands loosened at his sides, then tightened again. Decision. He could feel it. Stop the horse. Her voice was different now. Not cautious. Not warning. Certain. Ethan did not move at first. Every instinct told him to keep going. But there was nowhere to go. The pass curved ahead. Blind. Unknown. He pulled the reins. The horse slowed. Then stopped. Dust settled around them. Silence dropped heavy. Ethan listened. Wind above. Hooves behind. Nothing else. This is where it changes, she said. Ethan turned slightly in the saddle. You keep saying that. Because you keep moving forward. Her voice was steady. Too steady. And you still think you can step back. Ethan's jaw tightened. Then explain it. A pause. Then she reached up. Not fast. Not sudden. Slow. Controlled. Her fingers touched the edge of the sack. Ethan felt his chest tighten. You said not to do that, he said. I said if you see, you cannot walk away. She loosened the knot slightly. Just enough for air to shift. Not enough to reveal. Not yet. Then do not show me, Ethan said. Turn yourself in. In this. Her hand stopped. The sack remained in place. Silence again. Then a small shake of her head. If I go back, I do not choose my life. Ethan felt that land hard. And if you stay, he asked, then neither do you. The words hung between them. Heavy. Final. Ethan looked toward the entrance. The riders had dismounted now. Standing. Waiting. Not rushing. Not forcing. Just watching. Giving him space to decide. That made it worse. Why you, he asked. Why does all this follow you? Another pause. Longer this time. Then she said it. Quiet. Clear. Because I was promised. Ethan turned fully now. Promised to who? Her fingers tightened on the sack again. To a man who does not take no for an answer. Ethan's stomach tightened. Not fear. Something else. Understanding. Pieces falling into place. So you ran, he said. I chose, she corrected. And now they come to take that choice away. Ethan looked at the riders again, then at the narrow path ahead, then back at her covered face. He could feel the weight of it now. Not just her. The decision. The line he had already crossed. If I keep you, he said slowly, this does not end here. No, she replied. It begins. The wind picked up through the pass. A low sound, like something shifting, waiting. Ethan tightened his grip on the reins. He had stepped into it. Not by accident. Not by mistake. By choice. And now, there was no simple way out. The wind shifted again, colder now, pressing through the narrow rock like a warning that refused to be ignored, and Ethan felt it settle deep in his chest as the riders behind them stepped forward just a few inches, not rushing, not threatening, just reminding him they were still there, still watching, still waiting for him to choose. And that was the part that made his jaw tighten, because men who wait like that do not doubt the outcome. They expect it. You said you were promised, Ethan said, his voice lower now, more careful, to a man who does not take no for an answer. And behind him she nodded once, slow, controlled, like every movement had weight. He is not just a man, she said, and that small shift in her tone made Ethan turn slightly in the saddle again. Then what is he asked, and her answer came without hesitation this time. He is the future chief, and that landed hard, heavier than anything before, because now it was not just one man chasing her, it was a tribe, a system, something bigger than both of them, something that did not bend easily. Ethan looked back toward the entrance again and saw the riders spread wider now, cutting off any thought of turning back, not forcing him, just closing every door quietly. So if you go back, Ethan said slowly, you marry him. And she did not answer right away, and that silence said more than words. Then finally, I become what they decided I should be, she said, her voice steady but tighter than before. And if you do not go back, Ethan pressed, and this time she leaned forward just slightly, close enough that he could feel her breath through the sack. Then they lose control, she said, and that word control echoed in his head because now it was clear this was not about marriage, not really. This was about power, about keeping things the way they had always been, and she had stepped out of that line, and now they were here to put her back. Ethan exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of it settle deeper, because this was no longer a simple choice between helping someone or walking away. This was stepping into something that would follow him long after this moment. You could have told me all this back in town, he said, and she gave a small shake of her head. Would you have still taken me? She asked, and Ethan did not answer, because he knew the truth. He would have thought longer, maybe too long, maybe long enough to walk away. And now that option was gone. The riders took another step forward, closer now, their presence filling the narrow space without a single word, and Ethan could feel the pressure building, not loud, not fast, but steady, like something tightening around him. They are giving you one last chance, she said quietly, to hand me back. And Ethan's grip on the reins tightened, his eyes moving from the riders to the narrow path ahead, then back to the sack that still hid her face. Because that was the one thing he had not seen yet, the one piece she kept holding back. Why does seeing your face matter so much? He asked again, and this time her hand rose once more to the edge of the sack, fingers resting there, not pulling, not yet, because then, she said, softly, you will understand why I could not stay. And that was when Ethan felt it shift again, deeper this time. Not just danger, not just pressure, but something else, something pulling him forward even as everything around him said to step back. The wind moved through the pass again, carrying dust between them. The riders waited. The path ahead remained unknown. And Ethan realized the choice was no longer about whether to help her or not. It was about whether he was willing to stand between her and everything coming for her. And he still had not seen her face. Then take me back, she said. The words hit hard. Too fast. Too sudden. Ethan turned in the saddle, eyes narrowing. What did you say? He asked. Her hand dropped from the sack. No hesitation now. No doubt. Take me back, she repeated, stronger this time. The riders behind them shifted again, just slightly, like they heard it, like they were waiting for that exact moment. Ethan felt his chest tighten. You just said going back means losing your life, he said. It means losing my choice, she corrected. Her voice did not break, but something inside it changed. Quieter. Heavier. There is a difference. Ethan shook his head once. That is not a choice. She leaned forward, closer than before, her forehead almost touching his back through the rough fabric. It is mine, she said. Silence followed. Thick. Pressing in from all sides. The riders did not move. The wind slowed. Even the horse stilled under him. Why now? Ethan asked, his voice lower, tighter. Why say that now? She took a breath. Long controlled. Then she said it. Because if you keep me, they will not stop with you. That landed deeper than anything before. Ethan's grip tightened on the reins. They will come for your land, she continued. Your animals. Anyone who stands near you. A pause. Then softer. You will not just lose peace. You will lose everything that is yours. Ethan closed his eyes for half a second, just enough to feel it. The weight of his ranch. The long days. The years it took to build something steady in a place that never gave anything easy. He saw it. All of it. And then he heard her again. You did not choose this. Life for me, she said quietly. Do not lose yours because of it. That was the moment. The anchor. It settled deep. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just clear. She was asking him to let her go. Not because she wanted to go back, but because she did not want him to pay for her choice. Ethan opened his eyes. Looked ahead. Then back. The riders were closer now. Not rushing. Just waiting for him to decide. If I turn around, he said slowly, this ends here. For you, she replied. Another pause. Then, softer. Not for me. Ethan swallowed. That line stayed. Sharp. Unmoving. He shifted in the saddle. Felt her weight behind him again. Light. Steady. Not weak. Never weak. And if I do not turn back, he asked, what happens? This time she did not answer right away. Her hand rose again. Slowly. Fingers finding the edge of the sack. The same motion as before. But now, it felt different. Not a warning. A decision. Then you see, she said. Ethan's breath slowed. The world narrowed. Riders behind. Rock ahead. Her hand on the sack. And once I see, he said, there is no stepping away. No, she said softly. There is not. The wind picked up again. Dust moved through the pass. The riders stopped advancing. Waiting. Watching. Ethan felt it all stack at once. His land. His life. Her choice. Their silence. And that one question still hanging. What happens when he sees her face? His fingers tightened once more on the reins. And for the first time, he did not look back at the riders. He looked forward. Straight into what he was about to choose. The reins creaked in Ethan's hands as his grip tightened, then loosened, then tightened again, like his body had not caught up with the weight of the moment yet. And for a second, he just sat there, not moving, not turning, not speaking, while the wind pushed through the narrow pass and the riders behind them held their ground, waiting, always waiting. And that was when it hit him, not fast, not loud, but deep, steady. The kind of realization that does not leave once it settles in, because this was never about a simple trade, never about a woman with a sack on her head. It was about a line, and he had already crossed it the moment. He said those words back in town. I will take her. And now everything that came after was not a mistake, not an accident, but a continuation of that choice. Ethan exhaled slowly, his eyes moving from the narrow path ahead to the ridge behind, then down to his own hands, rough, steady, built from years of making hard calls without anyone telling him what to do. And that was the truth that rose up now, stronger than the fear, stronger than the pressure. No one else was going to decide this for him, not the riders, not the tribe, not even her. He lifted his head slightly, shoulders straightening in the saddle, something shifting inside him, settling into place. You said I would not be able to walk away, he said quietly. And this time there was no hesitation in his voice, no uncertainty, just a calm that came from seeing the path clearly for the first time. You were right. The words hung there for a second, and behind him she did not speak, but he felt it, the stillness, the attention, waiting for what came next. Ethan glanced back once more, not at the riders this time, but at the space between them, at the distance that no longer felt like an escape, just a delay. And then he looked forward again, deeper into the pass, into the unknown, into whatever came next. I do not turn people over, he said, his voice low, firm, not loud but unbreakable. Not like that. The wind carried the words. And even the riders seemed to pause, like they understood what had just been said, not in sound, but in meaning, a line drawn without a weapon, without a fight, just a decision, final and complete. Behind him she let out a breath, small, almost silent, but it carried something new, not relief, not yet, something closer to disbelief, like she had not expected him to say it, not after everything she had told him. "You do not understand what that means," she said, her voice softer now, not warning, not pushing, just stating it plain, and Ethan nodded slightly, even though she could not see it. "No," he admitted, "but I understand what it costs to turn away." That was the truth that sealed it, not heroics, not pride, just something simple and heavy. He had seen too many moments where a man chose the easy path and carried it for the rest of his life, and he was not about to add another one. Not this time. Not here. The riders shifted again, closer now, not rushing but no longer holding back as much as before, the space tightening, the pressure rising, and Ethan felt it, not as fear, but as confirmation. This was the consequence. This was the weight of the choice settling into the world around him. He adjusted his seat, steady, controlled, then spoke again. Quieter this time. "If they want you," he said, "they come through me." The words were simple, but they locked everything in place. Behind him she did not answer right away, and that silence carried more than any response, because now the choice was no longer just hers, it was his too, fully, completely, and there was no step back from it. Her hand moved again, slowly rising toward the sack, fingers brushing the edge once more, and this time there was no hesitation left in the motion. "Then you need to see," she said, her voice steady, grounded, final, and Ethan did not stop her this time. He did not look away. He did not question it again, because whatever came next, whatever truth was hidden beneath that rough fabric, he had already chosen to face it. And as her fingers began to loosen the knot, the riders took another step forward, the wind tightened through the pass, and Ethan realized the moment he had stepped into was about to change everything. Her fingers pulled the knot loose. Not fast, not dramatic, just steady. The sack slipped back an inch, then another. Ethan did not move, did not breathe. He had already chosen. The fabric fell, and in that second, everything shifted. Not because of beauty, not because of shock, because of recognition. Ethan's eyes narrowed slightly. "You are not just running," he said quietly. She met his gaze for the first time. Direct, unflinching. "No," she answered. The riders moved immediately, not rushing wildly, but no longer waiting. The space closed. The moment was over. They had seen enough. Ethan felt it. That line snapping tight. No more delay. No more maybe. He acted. Fast. Clean. He turned the horse sharply away from the entrance. Not back. Forward. Deeper into the pass. Gravel kicked up. The horse surged under him. Behind, the riders reacted. Closing in. Not shouting. Not warning. Just coming. That made it worse. Ethan leaned forward. "Hold on," he said. Her hands tightened around his waist. Strong. Certain. Not afraid. The pass narrowed ahead. Rocks pressed in. No clear path. Just turns. Blind corners. Risk. Ethan pushed through anyway. No hesitation now. No second thoughts left to consider. He had made the call. He was writing it out. "You just made this worse," she said behind him. Not accusing. Not panicked. Just truth. "I know," Ethan answered. His voice steady. Locked in. They turned a sharp bend. The sound of hooves echoed louder now. Closer. Too close. Ethan scanned ahead. A split in the rock. Narrow. Barely wide enough for the horse. "There," he muttered. He drove the horse toward it. No slowing. No checking. Either it worked or it did not. They slipped through. Tight. Close. The saddle brushed stone. Then open ground again. Not safe. But not trapped. Ethan did not stop. He did not look back. Not yet. "They know this land," she said. "Better than you." Ethan nodded once. Then we moved faster. The ground sloped downward. Loose dirt. Hard to control speed. Easy to fall. He adjusted. Balanced. Years of riding showing through. Behind them, the sound changed. Not lost. Not gone. Still there. Tracking. Always tracking. Ethan felt something settle deeper. This was no longer about getting away. This was about holding the line long enough to find another option, if one even existed. "Why did they wait until they saw your face?" he asked. She hesitated, just for a second, then answered. Because now they know you chose me after knowing who I am. Ethan tightened his jaw. That mattered. Not just to them. To everyone. This was no longer a mistake in a dusty town. This was a statement. Clear. Visible. Irreversible. They rode in silence for a few seconds. Just the wind. Just the hooves. Just the pressure building. Then she spoke again. Lower now. You should have left me. Ethan did not answer right away. He kept his eyes forward. Scanning. Thinking. Moving. Then finally. Too late. The words were simple. Final. Behind them, the riders closed the gap again. Not losing ground. Not stopping. And ahead, the land opened wide. No cover. No hiding. Just distance. And exposure. Ethan slowed slightly. Just enough to think. Too many angles. Too many risks. No clear path. And that was when he realized this was only the beginning. Not the escape. Not the end. Just the first move. And whatever came next would not give him time to think. The open land offered no cover, and Ethan felt it instantly as the wind hit harder, wider, carrying dust across the flat stretch like a warning that there was nowhere left to hide. His horse slowed just a fraction as the ground softened under its hooves, loose sand dragging at every step, and behind them the riders spread out again, not chasing in a straight line anymore, but fanning wide, cutting angles, thinking ahead, always ahead. They are not trying to catch us fast, Ethan said under his breath, eyes scanning left, right, searching for anything that broke the horizon, a dip, a ridge, anything. They are closing us in, she answered, her voice calm but tighter now, and that calm made it worse, because she knew this pattern. She had seen it before. Ethan adjusted his direction sharply, angling toward a low stretch of darker ground where the sand looked packed, maybe faster, maybe safer. But as they moved, the horse's stride shortened again, breathing heavier now, the pace starting to cost something. We cannot keep this speed, she said quietly, and Ethan nodded once, already calculating, already feeling the limit coming, not just for the horse, but for the choices. Then we changed the game, he said, and pushed forward harder, not to outrun them, but to force something, anything, to shift. The riders reacted again, splitting wider, one group cutting left, another holding center, another drifting right, silent coordination, no wasted movement. They are driving us, she said, and this time there was no calm left in her voice, just truth. Toward what? Ethan asked, but even as he said it he saw it. Far ahead, a line on the horizon, dark, uneven, not rock, not hills, something else, trees, dense, tight, a break in the open land. That forest, she said, confirming it, and Ethan's jaw tightened, because trees meant cover, but not just for him, for them too. And once inside, he would not see them coming until it was too late. The ground dipped slightly as they approached, the air cooling just enough to feel the shift, and the horse stumbled once, catching itself. But that single misstep said everything. Time was running out. Ethan slowed just enough to steady it, breathing controlled, thinking fast, always. Thinking, if we go in there, he said, eyes fixed ahead, we lose sight of them. Yes, she replied. And they lose sight of us. A pause, then softer. For a moment, Ethan exhaled slowly. That was the only edge they had left, not speed, not distance, just a moment. A single break in visibility, but moments like that decided everything. Behind them the riders tightened again, closing distance faster now, sensing the shift, sensing the decision coming. You know what is in there, Ethan said. Not a question, and she hesitated, just for a second, then answered. Paths, old ones, not on any map. Ethan felt something click into place, not safety, not certainty, but direction, and that was enough. He leaned forward, guiding the horse straight toward the trees. No hesitation left, no second path to consider. The wind dropped as they neared the edge, shadows stretching across the ground, the light dimming just enough to change everything. And behind them the riders surged closer, not holding back anymore. The moment of waiting was over. Once we go in, she said, her voice low, urgent now. There is no turning back out the same way. Ethan did not look back, did not slow, did not question it. There has not been a way back for a while, he said, and the horse crossed into the tree line, shadows swallowing them whole, the open land gone in a single breath. And as the light faded and the sounds changed, Ethan realized something new had just begun, something tighter, closer, more dangerous, and he still did not know where she was leading him. The trees closed in fast, and the light dropped to a dim green shade, branches tight above them, roots breaking the ground under the horses. Hooves, every step uneven, every turn blind, and Ethan pulled the reins just enough to slow the pace, not by choice but by force, because speed here meant a fall, and a fall meant the end. Left, she said suddenly, her voice sharper now, guiding, not asking, and Ethan turned without question, trusting the tone more than the direction. They slipped between two narrow trunks, branches scraping against his coat, then into a thinner path that barely looked used. They know this place too, Ethan said, eyes scanning every shadow, every movement, and she nodded behind him, her hands steady but tighter than before. Yes, but not all of it. And that one line carried a small edge, something close to hope, but not safe enough to trust. Behind them the sound returned, softer now, but still there, hooves muted by dirt and leaves, closer than he wanted, closer than before. They are still tracking, Ethan muttered, and she leaned forward slightly. They will not stop, she said, and that truth settled in again, heavier each time it came back. Ethan pushed forward, weaving through the trees, the path twisting without pattern, left then right then down into a shallow dip where the ground softened again. The horse struggled for footing, breath growing heavier, and Ethan felt it, the limit coming closer with every step. We cannot keep moving like this, she said, and Ethan nodded once, already searching, always searching. Then we do not keep moving, he said, and that shift in his tone made her pause behind him, just for a second. What do you mean? She asked, and Ethan slowed the horse again, scanning ahead, looking for something more than a path, something that could change the pattern. They expect us to run, he said, his voice low, controlled. So we stop running. A beat of silence followed, thick, uncertain. Then she said it. If we stop, they surround us, and Ethan nodded again. If we keep running, they wear us down, he replied, and that was the truth that hung between them, both paths closing, both choices costing something. The horse stumbled again, catching itself with effort, and that decided it. Ethan pulled the reins, bringing it to a full stop, the sudden stillness almost louder than the movement before. What are you doing? She asked, her voice rising just slightly now, not panic, but close, changing the moment. Ethan answered, already moving. He swung down from the saddle, boots hitting the ground hard, then reached up and helped her down, firm, quick, no hesitation. Her feet touched the dirt, and she steadied herself instantly. Not weak, never weak. We do not have time, she said, turning slightly, listening, and Ethan shook his head. We do not have time to keep doing the wrong thing, he replied, and that line carried something final in it, something that did not bend. The sound of the riders grew closer now, not loud but present, moving through the trees with purpose, tightening the space again. They will see us, she said, and Ethan looked around once more, eyes sharp, mind working. Then he saw it, a fallen tree ahead, massive, roots torn from the ground, creating a hollow space beneath it, dark, tight, hidden just enough. There, he said, grabbing her hand without thinking, pulling her toward it. They crouched low, moving fast, slipping under the trunk into the narrow space beneath. Dirt cool, air still, just enough room to hide. Ethan pulled the horse's reins close, guiding it behind the fallen wood, shielding it as best he could. Then everything went still, no movement, no sound, just breathing, close, controlled, and outside the riders entered the area, hooves stopping, shifting, spreading out, searching. Ethan held his breath, every muscle tight, every sense locked, and beside him she did not move either, her face now uncovered in the dim light, eyes focused, alert, and for the first time since they entered the forest, Ethan realized they were no longer just running from something. They were waiting for it to find them. The forest held its breath, and so did Ethan. Every sound stretched thin as the riders stopped just beyond the fallen tree, close enough that he could hear leather shift and boots touch dirt, not rushing, not searching wildly, just spreading out with quiet certainty. And that silence pressed harder than any noise could, because it meant they already knew. They are here, she whispered, barely a sound, and Ethan did not answer, his eyes fixed on the narrow gaps between roots where light slipped through in thin lines, watching for movement, waiting for the first mistake, not theirs, but his, because that was all it would take. One wrong move, one breath too loud, and it would end. The horse shifted behind him, restless, and Ethan reached back slowly, placing a steady hand against its neck, grounding it, calming it, while his mind raced through every option left, none of them clean, none of them safe. And that was when he heard it, a voice, low, controlled, not angry, not loud, just certain, speaking from just beyond the tree. You cannot hide her. The words carried through the still air, not a threat, not a demand, just a statement, and Ethan felt his chest tighten as he realized this was not just a search anymore. This was a confrontation, direct, unavoidable. The riders were not guessing. They were calling him out, drawing the line right there. No, she said quietly beside him, and Ethan nodded once, slow, accepting it, because there was no denying it now. No more delay, no more space to think. The moment had arrived. If you step out, she continued, her voice steady but softer now, they will give you a way to walk away. Ethan glanced at her, just for a second, seeing her clearly now in the dim light, not as someone hidden, not as a mystery, but as someone standing at the center of everything that had unfolded, and he understood. What she was saying, what she was offering, a way out, not for her, but for him. And you? He asked, already knowing the answer, and she did not hesitate this time. I go back, she said, simple, direct, final, and that was the weight of it, the full circle closing, the same choice returning, but now heavier, now real, now impossible to ignore. Ethan looked toward the gap again, where the voice had come from, where the riders waited just beyond sight, and he could feel it, the pressure, the expectation, the path they were offering. Step out, hand her over, walk away, keep your land, your life, everything untouched, and for a second, just a second, the thought flickered, clear, simple, easy, but then it hit him again, stronger this time. The truth he had already faced. This was not about what he would lose. It was about what he would become if he chose that path. And that was the line he could not cross. Not now. Not ever. He exhaled slowly, the decision already made, but now sharpened by the moment. Final, unshakable. Stay here, he said quietly, and before she could answer, before she could stop him, he moved, pushing himself out from under the fallen tree, stepping into the open space, the light hitting him as he stood, alone, visible, and the riders shifted immediately, turning toward him, their presence closing in without a word, without a rush, just forming a wall he could not ignore. Ethan stood tall, shoulders squared, no weapon raised, no threat given, just a man who had chosen his place. And for a second the forest went still again, the tension pulling tight, waiting for the next move, the final test. And Ethan knew this was it, the moment where everything he had chosen would either hold or break, and he had no intention of letting it break. The riders stopped a few yards away, and for a long second no one spoke, no one moved, just eyes locked on Ethan as he stood alone in the open. And then one man stepped forward, older, steady, his presence heavier than the rest, not louder, just stronger. You stand between us and what is ours, he said, his voice calm but final, and Ethan did not step back, did not lower his gaze. She is not something to be taken, he replied, and that answer hung there, sharp, cutting through the silence. The man studied him, long, careful, like weighing something unseen. Then his eyes shifted slightly, past Ethan, toward the fallen tree. Then let her choose, he said, and that was the shift, sudden, unexpected, not force, not command, but something else, something older, and behind Ethan there was movement, soft, controlled. She stepped out from the shadows, not hidden anymore, not running, just walking forward until she stood beside him. And the moment she did, everything changed. The riders lowered their posture just slightly, not in defeat, not in surrender, but in recognition, and Ethan felt it, that shift in the air, like a truth had finally stepped into the open. You should not have followed me, she said, her voice steady, carrying across the space, and the older man met her gaze without hesitation. You were never meant to leave, he answered, and she shook her head once, firm. I was never meant to be owned. And that line struck deeper than anything before, not just for Ethan, but for everyone there, because it was not anger, not rebellion. It was truth, clear and undeniable. The older man exhaled slowly, and for the first time there was something else in his expression, not control, not authority, something closer to conflict. You were promised to unite two tribes, he said, and now Ethan understood the full weight of it. This was never just about one man. This was about peace, power, survival on a larger scale. And she stepped forward again, just one step, but it carried everything. And I would have done it, she said, her voice softer now but stronger in meaning. If it had been my choice. Silence followed, heavy, pressing, and Ethan felt it all shift again, the story changing shape right in front of him. She was not just running from something. She had been willing to stand for it, to carry it, but only if it came from her, not forced, not taken. And that was the difference that changed everything. The older man looked at her for a long moment, then at Ethan, and something passed between them, unspoken but understood. You risked everything for someone you did not know, he said to Ethan, and Ethan did not answer right away, because the truth had already settled inside him. He knew exactly why he did it. Not for her name, not for her place, but for the moment he saw in her back in that town, that quiet strength, that refusal to break. And finally he said, I did not need to know. And that was the line that sealed it. The riders shifted again, but not closer this time. Something easing, something loosening, but not gone, not finished. The older man nodded slowly. Then you understand what you stand in now, he said, and Ethan felt it, not as a threat, but as a reality. This was bigger than him, bigger than her, bigger than the moment, and still, he did not move, did not step away, because his place was already chosen. She turned slightly then, looking at Ethan, her expression different now, not guarded, not distant, something clearer, something real. You should not have stayed, she said quietly, and Ethan met her gaze without hesitation. I was never leaving, he answered, and for the first time, a small shift crossed her face. Not relief, not fully, but something close. And yet the riders did not leave. The tension did not disappear, because even with the truth out, even with the choice made, the cost had not been paid yet, and Ethan could feel it. This was not the end, not even close. It was only the moment where everything finally came into the open, and what came next would decide what any of it truly meant. The forest did not move, but something inside it shifted, quiet and real, as the older man lowered his gaze for just a moment, not in defeat but in thought. And when he looked back up, the weight in his eyes had changed, not gone, but different. You speak of choice, he said slowly, his voice carrying across the space with a tone that no longer pushed but questioned. And she stepped forward again, just one step, but it closed the distance between them in a way that no force could have done. I speak of what should have been mine from the start, she answered, steady, unshaken, and the riders behind him did not move, did not interrupt. They listened, and that alone changed everything. Because before this moment, no one had listened, not in the town, not in the deal, not in the chase, and now they did. Ethan felt it settle in his chest, that quiet shift from pressure to something else, something closer to balance. The older man exhaled slowly, then nodded once, small but clear. You were willing to carry the burden, he said, but not without your voice. And she met his gaze without hesitation. I will still carry it, she replied, but it will be my decision. Silence followed, but it was not the same silence as before. It was not tight, not waiting to break. It held something steadier, something that could move forward. The older man turned slightly, glancing at the others, and for the first time they did not close in. They stepped back, just enough to open the space, not wide, not free, but no longer trapped, and Ethan saw it, the path forming not through escape, but through recognition. You changed nothing with force, the man said to Ethan, his voice calmer now, but everything with the line you refused to cross. And Ethan did not respond right away, because the truth of that sat heavier than any praise. He had not fought them, had not outmatched them. He had simply stayed, and that had been enough. The woman turned then, looking at Ethan fully, her eyes clear now, no shadow left, no distance held back. You gave me time to stand, she said quietly, and Ethan shook his head once. You were already standing, he answered, and that small exchange carried more than anything else said before it, because it was not about saving, not about rescuing. It was about seeing, truly seeing, and not turning away. The wind moved again through the trees, softer now, less sharp, as if the forest itself had loosened its grip. The riders stepped back another pace, creating space, not forcing, not pulling, just allowing. And yet the moment did not close, not fully, because the path ahead was still there, uncertain, undefined. The older man looked at her one last time. Your choice will shape more than your life, he said, and she nodded once, accepting it, not avoiding it. And that was the final shift. She was no longer running, no longer being taken. She was choosing, fully, completely, and Ethan felt it, that quiet resolution settling in, not loud, not dramatic, just real. But even as the tension eased, something remained, a question not answered, a future not decided, because she had gained her choice. But what she would choose next had not yet been spoken, and as the riders stepped aside and the space opened, Ethan realized this was not the end of the story. It was the moment where it finally began to belong to her. The space between them stayed open, but no one rushed to fill it, and that was what made it real, not a victory, not an escape. Just a moment where something had changed and could not be pushed back the way it was before. Ethan stood still for a second longer, letting it settle, letting the weight of everything he had chosen finally land without noise, without pressure, just truth. Then he turned slightly toward her, not stepping ahead, not pulling her forward, just waiting, because this part was no longer his to lead. She looked at him, steady, clear, and for the first time there was no distance left in her gaze, no guarded edge, just something quiet and certain. You stood when it mattered, she said, her voice soft but firm, and Ethan shook his head once, a small motion. I did not stand alone, he replied, and that line stayed between them, not loud, but deeper than anything said before, because it was not about saving or being saved, it was about choosing not to turn away. The riders shifted again, not closing in, not following, just watching as she took one step forward, then another, not toward them, not toward Ethan, but into the space that had been opened for her, her path, her choice, and Ethan felt it then, the full change. She was no longer the woman on a platform, no longer the one hidden behind a sack, no longer someone being moved by others. She was walking on her own terms now, and that was something no one there could take back. The older man lowered his head slightly as she passed, not in submission, not in defeat, but in recognition, and that single gesture carried more than any word could. It said she was seen, not as an object, not as a promise, but as someone who had chosen and would be heard. She paused after a few steps, just long enough to look back at Ethan, and in that moment everything quieted again. The forest, the riders, even the wind seemed to wait. You can still walk away, she said, not as a warning, not as a test, just as truth. And Ethan let out a slow breath, looking past her for a second, toward the open land beyond the trees, toward the life he knew, the place that had been simple before this, and then back to her, standing in the middle of something far from simple, far from easy, but real. I could, he said, and there was no hesitation in it, no denial, just acknowledgement. Then he stepped forward, one step, closing the space between them, not reaching, not forcing, just choosing again. But I am not going to. And that was the final echo, not loud, not dramatic, just steady and unshakable. Her expression shifted, just slightly, something soft passing through it. Not relief, not fully, but something close enough to feel. And then she turned forward again, continuing her path, and Ethan walked beside her, not ahead, not behind, just there, as the riders slowly stepped aside, giving them space to pass, not as enemies, not as owners, but as witnesses to what had just changed. The forest opened gradually, light returning in slow layers, and with each step the weight of the moment eased just enough to breathe. But it did not disappear, because something still remained, something not yet decided, not yet spoken. What would she choose next? Where would she go? And what place, if any, would Ethan have in that choice? The wind moved softly through the trees as they reached the edge of the forest, And for a brief moment, they both stopped, looking out at the wide, open land ahead, not as something to escape into, but as something to step into on their own terms. And even as the path opened before them, one quiet question stayed behind, not answered, not forced, just waiting. What does a life built on choice look like after everything else has been left behind?